What's up, guys? I got a special guest for you today. Here's something you don't hear of very often. My buddy that I'm bringing on, Jameson, did $3.5 billion in top line revenue last year, and he's on track to almost double that this year in 2023. And he's coming on the show just to talk about his journey, how he got to the B's, and how you could do it too. So let's get into the show. So you got a deal that got dropped into your lap. You're gonna process some credit cards for online poker, is it, or online gambling?
Online gambling. So it's I believe it's that live gambling. You might have seen it where there's a camera that's showing a live deck, and they're dealing cards, and then you're getting cards kind of in your hand that you can see with a camera, but nobody knows what's going on. So it's like real poker, but you're able to bet digitally. And yeah, they need a home. They're doing 10 to 15 million bucks a month, and it's a great opportunity. That again, you start doing more and more business in these verticals, and the deals start coming to you. They say the rich get richer, and you got to have money to make money, and that's all very true. But it doesn't take that to get there. And so it's in a really good spot where we're kind of being right place, right time. I'm a big believer in you make your own opportunities, but it's also there's a stroke of luck in there. It's just how you respond to that luck. But yeah, it was a fun start to the day that I wasn't expecting. That's for sure.
That's a nice deal. So what is it? Fucking hard work? Like, what do you got to do? You gotta just work your ass off to create a few things and treat some people right. And, maybe the deals will come around to you because you're saying fundamentally that there's something more than just being rich to get richer, and it takes money to make money. So
well, it's sales karma. It's doing right by everyone. It's being being intentional with a lot of there's a good friend of mine here in Kansas City named Jeff Wasserman, and we just had a conversation just the other week about living your life with intent, being intentional about your goals, your day to day, just waking up with intent. And
Yep.
And so, it took me a long time to kind of learn this, and it really was with my wife, who is now my wife, who taught me about just positive mental attitude and having real goals that you're envisioning. And when we first met, you and I, we were talking about the vision board, and I since updated mine based on some things that you talked about, and several people in Arate. But if I had known what I know now, maybe 5 years earlier, I think I'd be a lot further along. There's a good part of my life that I wouldn't change, right? I've made mistakes that I think are really important for who I am, and I wouldn't change those mistakes. So, it's that people always ask, if you could go talk to your younger self, what would you do? I could only answer that question if I could preface it with, do I get to choose the age that I can inject myself? Because I don't think I'd want to change anything up until 22. But my dad was a blue collar mechanic, and when my parents divorced, he started off on a new path, had to reinvent himself, and took that opportunity to pour all of his mistakes and all of his learnings into his children. And was like, hey, I'm in this rat race. I'm too old to get out, which was the wrong mentality for him, even as a young 40-something. But in his mind, it was too late for him to start over. So he took the opportunity to spend all of his effort teaching us. So he got really into Robert Kiyosaki, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, prophecy, all that stuff. And he took us on a cruise. I think I was 11 or 12. So they were divorced 3 or 4 years, took us on a cruise and wouldn't let us leave our rooms until we read a chapter and played the rat race. So every day for 7 days, we had to play the rat race, which is like real life Monopoly, apply it. Again, play the game with intent, explain the moves you're making and why. And once that was through, we were able to get out and go and have a good time. And I don't think it really resonated with me right then, the impact that had on me, but I reflect on that pretty often. For the most part, my dad was a very close confidant of mine, and I would give him business updates all the time. But I have been a kind of a silent random partner in a business that was medium successful. I had a failed business where I had chosen a bad partner based on sweat equity, and that kind of became a cantankerous relationship for us, and it ended up being something that we all had to walk away from for risk of either losing each other or losing our minds, because we were trying to build something that wasn't getting equal effort. So that was a really big learning curve for me, and a really big learning opportunity, which I wouldn't change, but I definitely would advise not going into business with your friends if the only reason you want to do it is because they're your friends. I'm not saying you can't. I'm not saying it can't work because
It's a good lesson. I'm
yeah.
laughing because it's a really good lesson.
Well, my friend here in Kansas City, again, Jeff, he's went into business with I think what is now his best friend, or is his best friend, or was his best friend, and they have an incredible working relationship. They've grown an amazing brand here in Kansas City. I would imagine that they're going to take it, national further, partnering with their franchisor. But they're building something beautiful, and it's truly possible. I think they just chose the right principles for the reason that they started on their journey together, rather than, hey, we're already friends, let's find a way to get paid to be together. And like that is not the case, because then you would just end up resenting each other. But the gym, ironically, is what brought me into Pillar Payments, which is the primary business now. And it's been, this will be our 7th year in business. The first 2 to 3 years, very, very low earnings. I mean, we were working 40, 50, 60 hours a week, and there would be months where we were pulling in $300. And then, we rose to 100 million mark, probably 4 years in. And then now on year 7, we're poised to do 4 billion. And so the spiral, the snowball, if you will, the larger you get, the easier it is to have these conversations. Before you hit the record button, you and I were talking about imposter syndrome. And sometimes, you get in these calls and you have all the confidence in the world, and in your head, I know how to talk to this, fortune level executive. But the minute they start asking you questions, you're like, man, we're just a low level processor with a couple of employees. Sure, we're doing tons of money, but maybe we can't support this. Maybe we're not big enough for you. And then until you're past all that, you just shove that part back in your brain and say, let's let them decide if you're good enough for them or not. Let's put that all on the table. And so you just operate like a poised professional. You act like you have 400, 500 employees at your helm and go through. And then 6 months into having their business, you realize that it didn't really have anything to do with how big of a company you were employee-wise. It was a matter of whether you were in the right business and doing a good job. And payment processing is one of those things where if you set it up correctly, it's very low touch. And it's a highly volatile industry. Most of our competitors are losing 20, 30% of their clientele every year, which means they got to be growing by 31% to be growing by 1%.
Sure.
We've lost one client in 7 years, which is pretty incredible. So we drive a great bus, so to speak. We have a great product. We price it appropriately. We try to make up for the bad name that's in payments because of everyone that heard there was an opportunity to make $1 and got involved. And we're just constantly trying to undo that myth. It's been quite a journey. There's some ups and downs. We rode the gravy train in the cannabis world. We're still riding it, but we do a lot of processing for marijuana dispensaries, which was definitely a gold rush. There was times where our margins were incredibly high. And we were talking 2.5% profit margins, and we had to lower those to keep clients. And so it's one of those things where that's what the market was bearing. And so we pushed it along, and we had to adapt and change. And it's getting legal in more and more states. Being in the reserve here in the military, I got to say I'm one of the only guys that I would imagine in cannabis that has never used the product.
Yeah, definitely.
I will when I retire out of the Marine Corps. I will certainly give it a go in a state that it is legal. But I have never been high, and I'm fascinated at the industry because I've seen the numbers that it demands. But definitely an interesting thing for me to be involved in. I mean, the first time I saw weed was when I was at a grow house in Colorado in 2017.
Okay, all right. So I got so many things I could say.
Lots to unpack.
What's that?
A lot to unpack there.
Yeah, well, let's start from the important part. You mentioned it and you kind of breezed over it, which I think is really, really powerful for anyone that's trying to understand how to move forward from the starting stages, which is, you mentioned your now wife taught you basically vision, direction, if I'm not mistaken. Can you maybe expand on that a little bit? Like, where were you prior to that? And what did she unlock in you? Like, what was it? What did that look like?
So I remember almost exactly the situation, and because I do recant this story often.
Oh, you do?
So we were probably 2 years into our relationship. Backstory: my wife and I have been friends since the mid-teens. She dated the drummer to my heavy metal band in high school. I had long black hair, and life was very different back then. But she was all about being positive, and we all go through those trials where you have these bouts of like,
Definitely.
life isn't going my way.
Definitely.
Woe is me. The world is falling apart around me. And like, so you have a bad day, you think about it, and then the next day is even worse and even worse and even worse. Well, my wife had a very different outlook, and she sat me down and she made me watch The Secret on Netflix.
Yeah.
Um,
Bob Proctor.
yeah, she said, you're about to watch an hour and 20 minutes of the worst acting you've ever seen. But if you can be objective and listen to the message, you will come out feeling better. I said, okay.
She's not wrong.
No, and I am, again, my negativity poured through. I'm sitting there, scoffing. I'm like, this is terrible. This is so bad. And I'm watching it, and she's like, just listen to the message. So we finally get to the end, and I turn it off. I'm like, I don't know what you were expecting me to feel like, but I feel like that was the biggest waste of time that I've ever had, that I'm never getting back. And she said, tell you what, if you can just do me this favor of being positive for 7 days in a row, go to bed thinking of positive things, wake up thinking of positive things, I think your life could change. It's like, just do it for me. I'm like, okay, anything for you. Happy wife, happy life. We weren't even engaged at the time. And this is 2016. So Pillar Payments had started without me, but I wasn't involved. I was a referral partner of theirs. I was helping them get business, but I was not an owner.
You were parking next to the guy at the gym.
I was parking next to the guy, right? So I had already met him, and I was sending him business, but was not actively involved in the business. Okay, so she's like, well, what do you really, really want? What are your goals for this year? And I said, well, I just want us to have a little bit better life. We had already talked about getting married. I'm like, I want to buy a ring. I want for us to be able to move into a bigger house, blah, blah. She's like, okay, so, it's not materialistic, but let's just say for the sake of ease that money is your objective. I'm like, cool. She took out a dollar bill. She took a Sharpie. She put a comma with 6 zeros after it, taped it to the ceiling above my bed. She said, when you go to bed, you look at this $1 million bill. When you wake up in the morning, you look at this $1 million bill. I'm like, okay. So Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, come and go. It's Sunday. It's the last day. And I'm doing it. I woke up, looked up, said, all right, $1 million, let's do it. And around just before dinner time, my now business partner texts me, and he says, hey, what are you doing? I said, I'm just about to make dinner. He said, can I call you? He calls me. He patches in the other partner. And he said, hey, we had a kind of disruption in our ownership. And because of a lawsuit, we need to move the business to another state. And we need to put somebody else at the helm so our names aren't on it. I said, okay, why are you calling me? I said, well, we need to put the company in your name. You've been sending us tons of business. And you're our most prized referral partner. And you've been putting in all this, so much more work than anybody else. We're going to make you a partner in our business. And going forward, you will just have ownership. I said, well, what do you need me to do? What happens? Like, well, all we need you to do is sign on this DocuSign. And when you go to sleep, you're going to get a $45,000 a year raise. I said, okay, that seems too good to be true. So I got off the phone. I looked at my wife and I said, the weirdest call ever. And I explained the situation. And she's like, well, let's take a look at that document. And sure enough, it was all real. Became a partner that night. And they were like, look, we're happy for what you've done for us. You can take a seat in the sidelines and you'll see that number in your bank account go up every month. And I said, screw that. I'm not a guy that takes handouts. So if I'm going to be part of this company like this,
give me something to do.
Actively invested. Yeah. So you're going to spend all of your time teaching me. If I need to be silent on some calls for the next year, just so I can learn the tricks of the trade, because I'm like a method actor, then I will do so. But no way am I collecting a paycheck from you guys and letting you do all the work. Absolutely not. I'm part of this now. We're going to build this together, and build it. We did. So that's the nutshell story of how bringing true positivity into my life and the positive mental attitude has really revolutionized things. And yes, probably 5 times a year I'll have those days, but those days will never bleed into the next day. No, I will reset and it's done.
That's actually an incredible story. Do you tell that often?
I do. It's one of my favorite stories.
Yeah.
In fact, anytime we get a new business, like this deal we're talking about today, like once it's inked and we see the residuals, one of us will always say like to think it all started over cars. And anytime we get a deal because we met somebody through cars, it's cars. Cars connects everything, right? And it's really not cars, it's passions. People are passionate about cars, they're passionate about watches, they're passionate
Yeah.
about music, they're
Yeah.
passionate about cigars.
Yeah.
So you find these things that are typically polarizing. You're like, there's nobody that's just like okay with cars. You either know a lot about them or
Yeah.
you don't care at all.
Mhm.
And so like, so if you find that thing to talk about or to connect with on somebody, it doesn't matter where you're at in the world or where you came from. If you guys bond over something that you have a lot of knowledge over, you can be fast friends and you can leverage each other's networks because of that commonality. And it's suddenly like, well, we both like naturally aspirated, high revving motors. Let's talk about that. And after that, nothing else matters.
It's interesting that you say that. The two piggybacks off that. Tomorrow, I'm going to meet someone. I'm selling them a watch. He owns an auto repair shop. And when we got on the phone to talk about the sale, we didn't really talk about the sale. We talked about cars. We talked about my cars. We talked about his race cars. We talked about the fastest cars I've ever driven, a 1200 wheel horsepower GT 500. It was
that thing's undrivable.
When you turned it over, it would just shake. Like you couldn't see out of the mirrors. But anyways, we talked cars. And you know what? We talked business for 3 minutes. Okay, you want to meet? Sure, great. I'll meet you Saturday, 4 o'clock, right here. Sounds good. Beautiful. I think a lot of people lose that when it comes to business. Like they're trying so hard to like follow a script or this, that, whatever it might be. And I said I wanted to piggyback off two things. I had a conversation with someone yesterday in my other company, and he wants to hire me to come out to Utah to put eyes on his family business. And I was like, yeah, absolutely. I said, man, Utah, that's some of the best snow I've ever snowboarded. And he's like, you snowboard? I'm like, for almost 30 years. So we talked about snowboarding the entire time. And the last 5 minutes of the conversation was, all right, yeah, what are your rates? These are my rates. All right, I'm going to run it by the board. I'll let you know next week. And that's it. That was the business. That was the business aspect of things. And I would imagine that you might probably agree that the majority of the conversation is just connecting with someone, getting to know them, and talking about something that you both enjoy or don't know anything about or do know something about. And then the business is secondary. Would you agree?
I mean, what you're explaining is I would say that you and I are geriatric millennials, but what you're explaining is what used to be the golf course taken off the golf course, because then you'd be golfing and you obviously both enjoy golf. So like that's off the table. Like you're comfortable now. But now that we're in this digital age where we can see each other's lives everywhere, you know, I know the things that you appreciate just on your social media, which is, do not think it's private. So it's very easy to say, all right, this is a guy that enjoys the finer things, like fast cars, fancy watches, good food, probably a cigar, the occasional beanie. So like there's already the removal of how are we going to connect. But yes, you put it perfectly. He wasn't there to talk about what you sold, because more than likely it's maybe not a commodity in and of itself, but there's probably 100 people that sell something that's 80% as good as what you sell.
Yeah.
You wanted to make sure that you were the good person. You're the right person to pay. You're the right person to get the business.
Absolutely. And it's interesting because you're talking at a multi-billion-dollar top line revenue level, right? And we're just multi-million, so there's a drastic difference. But when it comes to revenue numbers, but the point is, and you know, talking to people, it's just like you said, it's just figuring out what works and having that conversation. And since we're geriatric millennials, I've never heard that before. You just kind of throw the business in at the end. And if what's most important is, and I think and this is my opinion, I think what a lot of people forget is it a good fit? Is it a good relationship? Is it, like, for someone like you got to work with these people. If it's not a good relationship, if it's not a good fit, it's not going to last. But clearly you're good at selecting who you work with, because in 7 years you've lost one customer, which means your churn rate is nothing. So, and we, like, just to put it into perspective, like me with what I do, I have very little turnover, very, very little. And it's because we qualify people. You just talk to them. And I appreciate that you brought that up. And that was a hell of a story about your wife. I think, you know, moving forward in the conversation, You know what I really want to know? I really want to know, if you don't mind, tell me a little bit about when you were negative. What were you doing in that part of your life? I believe is the right way of saying it.
Well, I was pretty much going through the numbers. I had a day job that I was showing up to. We had exited.
You were an employee.
I was, and
Oh,
I had exited a startup. Didn't make a killing, but we did sell our intellectual property for above break even, which was good because there was a couple of scares already in the last 3 years of being with it was a biotechnology startup. I was going through the numbers. I wasn't really appreciative of the opportunities I had. I mean, it's 2023. I wasn't appreciative that I was a white male, which I am now reminded of that is the cheat code to life, right?
yeah.
Um,
Apparently, we're also terrible.
and some might say
Apparently.
some might say it's hindrance because nobody wants to do business with a white male anymore. But I just was kind of going through the numbers. I was showing up barely in a time where
You were checking the box.
I could have had my limit. I could have maxed out, but I wasn't. I was showing up, going home, right? 9 to 5, not a minute early, not a minute late. I was gone. In my military career, I had gotten to a rank very quickly that I was happy with, and I slowed down. And I probably would be a year, maybe 2 years, even further than I was. But I just kind of let it all wash over me, and I stopped being active. I started being reactionary to where I would only work at the risk of losing something rather than working to constantly gain. And so once I saw both the impact of that positive mental attitude, and once I saw not only how it affected me, but everyone around me. If you are, again, when I see your name pop up on my cell phone via text message, it doesn't really matter what you're saying. I just know that it's going to make me smile because you and I are chatting because I like you. And so having that automatically, it's like, the rising tide raises all ships. One of my favorite sayings. It really, when you live your life by that and you start seeing the benefit, not only to your life, but all the indirect benefit of being overtly positive, how you can bring up anyone. So I try to always answer my phone with a smile, even though they can't see me, because I know that's going to come through in my voice and the inflection, and it's going to start that conversation off on the right foot.
The energy.
It's just things that I didn't really, just little subtleties of it all, how it can tip your day in the right direction. And then every day is constantly getting better, and financially, literally, professionally, all of those things.
So you know what it sounds like, man, and correct me if I'm wrong. Sounds like you were comfortable.
Yes. I had idolized my now wife since high school. And for me, once we were dating, I'm like, man, this is somebody that I always loved.
You're done. You got it. You're done.
What else do I need to do?
And then she's
like, hey, I want more. And I'm like, you deserve more. I should work harder.
Yeah. Yeah. That's incredible. So you were comfortable, you were locked in the military. What'd you make it to corporal, E5, something like that?
I was so in 2016, I was a sergeant. I was E5.
E5. Yeah, that's what I got out as. You can get there really fast, but to move past it, you got to put in the work, right? That. Long story short, you were checking the box at work, you were checking the box in the Corps. And I don't want to say checking the box in the relationship, but you had the relationship. It sounds
like you could even say that.
Yeah. Okay. Well, then you're checking the box everywhere. And I think a lot of people fail to understand that that's comfort. That's easy. Comfortability is easy. And comfortability is a moving target. It doesn't matter where you are, how much money you make, you can continue to get comfortable. But my point is here, societal norms, that is comfortable, and that kind of keeps people in mediocrity, in my opinion. And I think one of the reasons why you were unhappy is because of the comfort and mediocrity. And this is just a speculation from a conversation we're having, but I know firsthand how that feels, and that's why I was negative too. And it's intriguing to me that your wife saw everything, or fiance or girlfriend at the time, and was like, hey, listen, like, I have this secret for you.
Unintended.
Yeah, exactly. So if you fast forward, that's 2016, 2017,
correct.
You said?
2016, yeah.
So let's fast forward 6-7 years. Does she remind you all the time that she's the reason why? Yeah, she does.
Yeah,
What
we
does she
don't use
say?
the word divorce in this house, but like if couples are ever talking about that and like prenups and whatever, they're like, she's like, you know what? I think Jameson has said probably across every social media platform in text that I'm the reason that he is where he's at. She's like, I'm not worried about any of that stuff. She's like, I know I pulled my weight. She doesn't work. She makes a beautiful home, right? She's a homemaker and a dog mom and excels greatly at both of those things. So whenever people attempt to give her crap for, not working, she's like, well, I have different passions, and she's very much responsible for everything that I am and all that I have right now. And so, she can take full credit for all of my accomplishments as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, and that's very selfless of you to say, and I think another thing that's commonly misunderstood is if you have a really, really supportive, powerful partner by your side, whether you're male or female or whatever the fuck there is these days. I don't even know. I don't even know how to like say it. Like whatever, a partner, right? If they breathe life into you and they support you and they help you, I mean it's invaluable. Like it doesn't matter what someone's title is, a stay-at-home mom, a homemaker, it doesn't matter. That's your partner, that's your team. And you're a
Right.
team guy. You're from the core. You understand how important teams work. And I don't know her, but I could tell you that every time I see a picture of you two, you guys are both genuinely happy. And I can see through the bullshit on social medias. You guys aren't faking it. And I didn't do any research into her, but I thought she had like like some sort of clothing brand or something. No.
No, she's more or less an influencer here in Kansas City. I don't think she loves that term, but a good friend of her here in Kansas City has a wildly successful clothing line. Her name is Grace, and her brand is called by Grace. And she met her through local circles here in Kansas City, fast friends, and she loves her products, so she wears them like crazy. And it's this weird model where you buy it right away, but it's not ready. So and they don't charge you until it ships. So like it's an interesting, it's like roulette for me because like some months I'll just have all of these clothes ship and suddenly she spent $5,000. Like what the heck? She's like, I bought that a year ago, I swear. I'm like, okay, interesting. And then all these boxes will show up at my house, but yeah, so she just partners with local brands that she believes in, and then she tries
Yep.
to. Again, rising tide raises all ships.
Yeah.
She, for the most part, is not compensated, but she just promotes local businesses that she loves and believes in, and a lot of times she'll get stuff for free in exchange. But for the most part, she's just genuinely wants to see her friends successful.
Yeah, good karma, right? We were talking about
Absolutely, and I think a lot of my sales karma is coming as an extension of her. And you'll get a kick out of this. I actually operate a LinkedIn pretending to be her, because old white men are much more responsive to a pretty blonde than they are to me.
Of course.
And I even have a Skype phone number and a voice changer, so I can take calls as a female if I need to.
So how often do you talk to dudes as a chick?
Like 4 times a week.
Dude, I gotta hear this. Can I get a recording of this from the back end?
I'll call you after this. I'll call you after this podcast.
Oh my God. I'm gonna have to keep it in check when I hear that voice. I'm gonna be like,
well, it's funny, when I first bought it, I called her. I'm like, I'm gonna call you from this different number, answer. And she's like, okay. She's like, and then I called her as me, and then I clicked it over to the female voice, and she's like, what? This is the creepiest thing ever.
Yeah, no shame at all, especially with what's to come or what's predicted to come. Speaking of which, and kind of shifting gears, like this is a full business cycle for me. I started in the last recession, and and I don't blame you for doing what you need to do to keep your home and to grow and to provide jobs and put food on the table for people and their mortgages and car payments and gas and so on and so forth. You got to do what you got to do. And on top of that, women that are beautiful are definitely going to create a lot of attention for many things. And I don't take that away from them. I say, use what you got. I know a lot of people look down on it, but I don't. So, you got to do what you got to do. That's just what it comes down to.
I read your book, which is why I felt comfortable sharing.
You got to do what you got to do.
Hopefully your following is equally as receptive.
Oh, to my book?
No, to me disguising myself as a woman.
I mean, with the shit that we have going on these days, I think that's child's play.
Yeah.
You know what I
Got
mean?
to beat them at their own game, man.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, you got to do what you got to do. All right, so we got the negative shift to positive. We got the reason why it happened. What was that journey like from, let's break it down. What was that journey like from $300 a month to 100 million a month, and then the journey from 100 million to the billions? I mean, it was 7 years, so
I
it was
think
quick.
it's a really good example of, and I think we talked about this in one of the RTA weeks about the difference between working in your business and working on your business.
Ah, very good. Yeah.
Yeah, I think I just kept my head down and for a 2-year period. And honestly, like I remember the middle, but I also remember like looking up one day and looking at the numbers and like, how the hell did we get here? You know, looking at last month's monthly volume and seeing, $300 million, and you're like, I remember seeing $3,000 or $300,000 and thinking we processed some payments last month. You know what I mean? And it was one of those things. We got this very large Fortune level company, international. We're in the process of getting their parent company based in the EU, but they alone were doing $75 million a month, and so having that coming through again, I think even no matter how positive you are, you're going to have a little bit of that imposter syndrome. And I think the minute we got 3 months past having that kind of money coming in and looking at the numbers and like really realizing that there weren't any problems, no one was complaining, our phones weren't ringing. And in fact, the only time we got an email from them, it was to thank us for how much we saved them $6 million in the first year in credit card processing. And we actually matched the rate that they were getting from their former bank. But we have this software that we built that lowers the cost of Visa and MasterCard. And they were just so appreciative because this happened like right at the beginning of COVID. And so we made their payroll and savings on credit card processing every month. So, wow. I mean, potentially they could have had to lay off people, but they didn't. And so it's like,
all of a sudden they're more profitable.
I know, right? So we're worried in our heads. We're like waiting for that email. Not to say that we were negative, but we're waiting for that email. That first email that's like, we got a problem. And it was the opposite. It was gratitude. And seeing that come through and then being excited about, wow, not only are they not mad at us or they've got no problems, but they're actually going out of their way. You know, there's a lot of to be said. When you're a Fortune level company, you don't really interact with your payments people unless there's a problem. It's like paying your mortgage.
Yeah, it's
your
automated.
Bank never says, hey, thanks for paying your mortgage for the last 20 years. But if you miss one payment, they will message you right away and they'll try to take your house. So it was really interesting to see them being grateful, going out of their way to be grateful, and then actively look to see how they can give us more business. Hey, we got a parent company out of France. Maybe you can help us with our international payments. Yeah, we'd love to talk. And so that, it's been a 6-month process, but we're looking at going live with them next month. And it's just one of those things that the gift of the gab, doing good, it kind of bleeds over. And then out of nowhere, I think maybe 4 or 5 months ago, one of the guys on the team that we were working with for that company left to another pharmaceutical company and reached out to us also and said, hey, you guys are doing amazing things for us there. Can you do the same thing with this new company I'm at? I'd like to make a name for myself. And boom, we got into them. We're saving them, $100,000 a month. They're a little smaller company, but it's just, you do right, you do well, and just through osmosis, we'll say your business is going to grow. I truly believe that. It's how we've grown. I mean, we haven't, other than this potential public square ad we're going to run, we haven't spent a dime on marketing or advertising ever. We've just said, hey, if you know some businesses that could use us and you're happy with our services, make us an intro. We'll pay you 20% for life for anybody that you recommend to us, but we also want you to be candid. We want you to tell them your experiences. And that's how we've grown. I mean, every business that we get brings us 3 or 4. And so that spider webs out pretty quickly.
So you just gave a masterclass on human relationships. And that's the point, right? I said, how'd you go from 300 to 100 million, $300 a month to 100 million, and then 100 million to multi-billion? And the answer is you just take care of your people, and the rest grows from there fundamentally. And I think that's a very long forgotten about, let alone in business, but life. And you just got to take care of people. And it's something that I learned along the way is you can't keep count. Like don't
A
keep
watch
count.
pot never boils.
Right. Exactly. Don't keep count, because maybe you help someone 20, 30, 40, 50 times, but on that 51st time, they hand you the pot of gold, for lack of better terms. It doesn't have to be money or financial, but they hand you the pot of gold. So, and that was something big that I had to learn on the way up. And I still deal with, don't keep count, don't keep score. And I don't know
Right.
if you can expand on that, but that's what it sounds like you're giving a masterclass on relationships.
Well, I will say that so there's two other partners in this company, and we kind of span the gamut. I'm 34, one's 40, one's going to be 50. So we kind of cover a couple different generations, generation and a half, and the just being able to see the dichotomy of where their minds are, what's important to them. It's teaching me, but it's also my one of my closest friends and confidants is one of my business partners, and we talk all the time. And we've started a new company, a spinoff called Transact Care. We're doing payments for retirement homes, and we've had incredibly fast success. I mean, we're about 30% profitable, as profitable as our company is now in 6 months, and what it took us 7 years. And we're looking at these monthly payouts, getting really excited. And he reminds me, he's like, I'm not interested in these payouts, right? Like, we have enough coming in, our lives are fine. Like, we could even take a hit and be good. He's like, I'm not really interested in the profitability, because I'm looking at that top line delta, and I'm looking at a huge exit, maybe three years down the road. He's like, so just keep your head down, keep building, because what's really going to be exciting is when some fintech private equity firm makes us a 11-figure offer. That's what's going to be exciting. So who cares about the monthly residuals that are coming in office? Like, it's great to see that we would be able to launch a new business and go to market so quickly. But honestly, like, this is not the goal. We're not building this for a little bit of mailbox money. We're building this for like what will eventually be generational wealth. It'll be our legacy for our kids and our grandkids. And like, this is the game changer. And especially now, money is cheaper than ever. I feel like I'm making more money than I've ever made in my life, but it feels like it's less than it's ever been, just because everything's expensive.
Yeah.
You can't, I mean, MSRP, does that word even mean anything anymore? I don't think so.
No, not in the watch game, not in the car game, that's for sure.
992 GT3s. I think they just auctioned 2 new Corvette Z06s for 250 grand.
A
Corvette. It's crazy.
I was gonna say that the new GT3s are probably trading for about $250,000 as well, huh?
North, I was looking at them last night just to see. I'm like, good man. As a guy that appreciates things that appreciate, you can't buy at the top of the market.
But I think they still, no kidding, I think they still make them with a stick.
They do. Yeah. 7-speed dogleg manual.
That is a rarity right there. You know as well as I that the stick is gone.
Oh my gosh, the 3 pedals. I'll send you one that I've been keeping my eye on. It's not for sale. It's a PTS Porsche Racing Green with cognac interior. Oh my gosh, it's unbelievable.
It's got like the hunter green exterior.
Yes.
Oh, that's the most beautiful color on the 911.
It's so good.
Yeah. Well, hey, maybe it's time, man.
Well, my business partner, he is the Porsche guy. His dad's had Porsche. His dad was a United pilot. His dad's got Porsches. He's got Porsches. He's got a Miami Blue GT3, a 991.2 that he parks underneath his Performante. And it's funny because obviously the clout of the Lamborghini is there, but he prefers the Porsche all day long.
Driver car. But the perf is going to continue to appreciate.
Oh yeah, he got it. I mean, he overpaid at the time, but it's gone up probably 50, 60 grand since he bought it. So yeah, they over torqued the wheel and he couldn't get it off for 6 months. So he like missed the entire season of driving last summer. But because the parts from Italy were delayed 10 months, but he's ready to rock and roll this summer finally. But again, now he's got the 991.2 GT3. I don't even know if he'll drive the Performante. He's got to get it off the lift.
Yeah. Well, hey, listen, man, work hard, play hard, and guys like us, we love vehicles. So,
I got to tell you, when I got the Ferrari, it paid for itself within 6 months from the people that I met, whether it was business owners at the Ferrari Club or just the car mates or younger guys saying, "Hey, you look like you're young. how you're doing what you're doing. I'm like, hey, if you want to pound pavement and introduce me to some businesses, I'll pay you on it. And they hit the ground running. And we got new referral partners out here in Kansas City that are doing gangbusters. I mean, it's crazy. It's not necessarily just the materialistic nature. It's just, again, people are bonding over things that they love, and it's bringing people together. And it's an icebreaker in and of itself. You don't have to worry about it. And like the people that would normally not approach anyone just out of the blue, it's easy to come up to someone and compliment their car. I've been doing it my whole life. It's why I'm a partner in this business now. So, it attracts people, and it's like, I don't want to approach a stranger, but if I get closer to that car, that'd be really cool. So I'm like that all the time. Hey, if you're going to let me sit in your car, I'm sitting in it. You're going to toss me the keys, I'm driving it. I'll take advantage of every opportunity.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you got to. I mean, it's life. You might as well.
Right. Absolutely.
Yeah, dude. I think this has been an excellent conversation to foreshadow and kind of put light on several things that many people may have not even thought about. And you did an incredible job at articulating everything, and listening to you when it comes to how you interact with people and take care of them is incredible. And if I wasn't interviewing you, I would be taking notes. I'd be like, oh geez, I gotta fucking step it up over here. Come on, Chris.
That's the beauty of having it being recorded.
Yeah, it's like I can go back and listen. And you spoke to my mastermind recently, and you're doing this, and I'm hoping selfishly that in April, me, you, and John's doing fantastic as well.
Absolutely.
Maybe we all go get dinner after Saturday night. I proposed I could stay out there later or come earlier, but we got to do an in person, and we got to chop it up in person. I mean, you've met John in person, right?
Several times. I'm going to his house tomorrow for a party.
Hell yeah. Yeah. Oh, good. I'm happy because he's knocking it out of the park as well. And it'd be good to see everybody.
He's building a software company. I mean, he's like, if he would have interviewed again, if he would have seen where he's at 2 years ago, I don't think he would believe it. It's unbelievable how, it's, I will say, if John wasn't treated poorly, he wouldn't be the man he is now. But someone ruffled his feathers and he said, enough is enough. I'm going to do this on my own. And he's better for it. And I'm so excited for already where he's at and where he's going to be. But his story is an interesting one, just because, again, you got to treat people right. You can partner with people. You don't have to push them to the point where they're going to be a competitor of yours and take a giant megalodon-sized bite out of your business, because that's what he's doing. And very quickly, I'm sure he's going to trump all of the former businesses that he would have ever considered working for. So it's really cool to see.
John scaled his first company to 50 million in 2 years as a brand new entrepreneur.
Yeah.
I mean, that's eye-opening. And
I know.
He's just getting started,
He's got like 50, 60 employees already. It's unbelievable.
And
I mean, he's changing lives. He's hiring. I mean, he's living the American dream right now.
And I was talking to him about this fall, like another summit that, we all go to. And I asked him, I said, you going to the summit? And he's like, let me tell you something, Chris. At this point in my life, I don't want to go away for 3 days to sit through a bunch of speeches, to be away from it for 3 days. And I'm listening to him. I'm like, man, I met him at one of these. And now he's saying he's done with it. And I'm like, shit, this guy's progressing quickly.
Well, he'll eventually get to a point where he's hiring correctly and he can put it into someone's hands. But even though it's a monster, it's still a baby monster, and he wants to nurture that thing every single day. And he's a really hard worker. His schedule's all over the place. Whenever we schedule coffee, it's like 50-50 chance I'll cancel that day. But I'm like, cool, I get it.
At least he tells you.
Right. Yeah, I know what to expect. It's always casual.
Yeah. So, well, assuming you guys show up to St. Louis, we need to do dinner.
I'm going for sure. And I will probably be there at least 2 or 3 days on both ends, because my brother-in-law lives there, and I try to spend as much time with him as possible. So we usually spend a week on St. Louis either way. So I'll make sure that we have time together. Definitely.
Good. Then I'll schedule it with you as it comes. Maybe I'll come out a couple days early or something, at least a day early, and we'll chop it up too. Okay.
Let's do it.
So question for you before we wrap this up. Let's say someone wants to get a hold of you. Where might they find you? J Emling,
JEMLING at pillarpayments.com. I don't know if you hang anything in on your website or whatever, but my cell phone number is 847-730-9863. Call or text me. You can talk shit. You can ask me advice, or we can do business together. I'm open to anything, anytime.
Can you answer back in a woman's voice?
I'd give you a different number for that, but yes.
Okay. What about socials? You got any socials?
Jameson Emling, one word on Instagram, Jameson Emling on Facebook, Jameson Emling on LinkedIn.
Sounds pretty simple to me.
Yeah.
I tell you, I've been podcasting for 6 years. This is my 6th season. I've never had anyone give out their phone number on a podcast, so that's impressive. And guys, we have to understand that in 7 years you scale to multi-billion dollars. So it's incredible, and that's the difference. That's the difference of caring for people and relationships. Is you're like, hey man, here's my number. You don't even know who's listening, and you're just handing out your number. And that's the correlation, and that's the masterclass you gave us today. So bravo, fantastic job.
Thanks, Chris. Thanks for your time.
Yeah, man. Of course. So maybe we'll chop it up in round 2 when you're doing, 11, 12 figures.
It's going to be really excited in like 3 years for you and I to chat again and see where we're both at. That's for sure. This will be like a nice little time capsule I'm going to bury underneath my front lawn and dig it back up in a couple of years. Or maybe we'll take it from our island that we go 50-50 on.
Sounds good to me.
Right next to Ed's Island, right?
And until next time. Sound good?
All right, brother. Thanks for your time, man.